Welcome to today's deep dive. You sent us this incredibly dense stack of research notes this week, and I have to say, it completely blew my mind.
Oh, it's a massive topic.
It really is, because the mission today, our premise here, is, well, how do you get four of the most complex world-defining deities in human history, right? I mean, Shiva, Parvati, Vishnu, and Lakshmi. How do you get all of them from just two identical ingredients?
Yeah, it is a truly wild framework. I mean, it forces you to just completely discard all your preconceived notions about mythology.
Right, because we're heavily conditioned to think of, masculine and feminine as diametric opposites, or maybe like two halves of a single whole that eventually merge together.
Exactly. And the text you provided for us explicitly rejects both of those ideas. It tells us that these two souls, the primordial mother and the primordial father, they are not merged. And they're definitely not simply opposites. They are two entirely distinct sovereign souls.
But they are constructed from the exact same foundational materials.
Right, they share the exact same masculine and feminine natures.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because looking at the notes you sent, I was immediately tripped up by the terminology.
Yeah, the terminology is tricky.
It is. The notes say the feminine nature that both of these primordial souls carry is called Saraswati,
Hmm.
and the masculine nature they both carry is called Brahma. But wait, aren't Saraswati and Brahma just separate gods, like sitting on lotus flowers somewhere in the mythological cosmos? Are they being used here as the actual names of the foundational energies themselves?
Yeah, that is a crucial distinction to make right out of the gate. You have to temporarily put aside the later, more familiar mythological imagery,
Yeah.
with the specific instruments and the animal companion.
Right, the lutes and the swans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In this specific ontological frame, Saraswati is not a single being who belongs to one soul. She is the literal technical name for the feminine nature of the divine at the absolute primordial level. Both the mother and the father carry her.
Wow. Okay.
And Brahma is the name for the masculine nature of the divine at that same level. And both souls carry him too.
So, okay, if I have a soul and you have a soul, and we're both made of 100% identical Saraswati and Brahma energy, how do we end up so completely different? I mean, how does one become the primordial mother and one become the primordial father? I initially thought of it like baking, like having flour and sugar.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Right. So if flour leads, you get bread. If sugar leads, you get cake. Same ingredients, totally different output.
That works on a basic level to explain the outcome, sure.
Hmm.
But the text actually goes much deeper into the physics of how this operates. It uses these concepts of proportion and orientation.
Proportion and orientation.
Yeah. A better way to conceptualize it might be thinking of, say, an engine and a steering wheel.
Oh, interesting.
The steering wheel represents the intelligence, the direction, the knowing. And the engine represents the generative, outward-moving fire. What changes between the mother and the father isn't a different flavor of these components.
It's which one is driving.
Exactly. It's about which one is the absolute center of gravity for that soul. It dictates how the soul organizes itself and how it ultimately moves through reality.
Let's test that engine and steering wheel idea by looking at the first ingredient in the text, Saraswati, the shared feminine. The text has some incredibly poetic language for this. It calls her Vak, the sacred word before it's spoken.
Yes, Vak is the intelligence that makes creation meaningful rather than merely mechanical. The text defines her as the river of pure knowing.
But we should probably clarify what knowing means here, right? Because this isn't knowing as accumulated data.
Right, it's not memorizing an encyclopedia. This is knowing as the living, breathing substance of consciousness itself. She is the deep, formless awareness that sits at the threshold before anything is actually expressed or built.
So if Saraswati is that still formless awareness, the steering wheel, so to speak, how does she operate in the primordial mother?
Well, for the primordial mother, Saraswati is her primary leading orientation. Her entire soul is organized around this quiet, deep consciousness. So when the primordial mother expresses her feminine face in a specific earthly incarnation, this pure knowing takes on form and she becomes Parvati.
Parvati, the goddess we usually associate with the mountains, with fierce devotion, and with bringing Shiva back to reality.
Exactly. Notice how the environment reflects the energy there. Parvati is Saraswati, expressing through the specific conditions of embodied, mountain-rooted existence.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Right. Saraswati's pure, formless knowing translates into Parvati's embodied wisdom. That still luminosity becomes Parvati's patient, fierce, unmoving love.
And the text points out that Saraswati's quality of giving intelligent direction to form becomes Parvati's literal mythological role, directing the wild energy of Shiva back toward the world so the universe doesn't just collapse. But then we look at the primordial father. According to the premise, he also has Saraswati as his feminine nature. I have to pause you there, though, because the text uses this very strange phrase. It says the inner feminine gets turned inside out in the father.
Yeah, that is a wild image.
It sounds bizarre. If she is fundamentally an inner, quiet, feminine energy, how does she become an outward-facing goddess?
Well, it helps to think about that primary orientation we discussed. The father's soul has its center of gravity in the masculine, which is inherently outward-facing and generative.
Okay.
So Saraswati lives inside him as his inner feminine depth. But because his primary drive is to project outward into the world, his inner Saraswati gets pushed outward with that momentum.
Oh, I see.
She is his inner grace broadcasted into the environment. And when that expresses in the world, she becomes Lakshmi.
The goddess of abundance and wealth. Okay, I think I'm visualizing this. If Saraswati's pure knowing is like a source of light, in the mother, in Parvati, it's like a glowing hearth fire. It's a localized, intense heat that you have to sit around for deep, rooted, intimate connection.
Yeah, very grounding presence.
Right. But in the father, in Lakshmi, that exact same light is a lighthouse beam, generously sweeping across the water and illuminating the whole harbor for everyone to see. And if you're listening to this, think about how you process your own knowledge. Is the way you hold your core wisdom a quiet internal anchor that pulls people in? Or is it an overflowing presence that naturally projects outward to illuminate the space around you?
That's a great visual, but we do have to be careful not to view Lakshmi's light as just a sterile beacon or a mere spotlight. The text actually describes her expression of Saraswati as an overflow of abundance that literally fertilizes the reality around her.
Right, right.
The intelligence that illuminates from within the Father becomes the goddess whose sheer presence makes the world fertile, beautiful, and alive. And importantly, the text goes out of its way to emphasize that neither expression is more Saraswati than the other.
Parvati's hearth fire is not superior to Lakshmi's outward radiance.
Exactly. There are both 100% full, real expressions of the exact same sacred feminine nature, simply filtered through two distinct soul orientations.
That is fascinating, but that leaves a massive gap in the equation. If the mother's entire identity is rooted in this still, quiet knowing, how does she actually interact with the physical world? I mean, is she just entirely passive?
Well, that is where the second ingredient comes in, Brahma, the shared masculine.
Okay, so if Saraswati is the river of pure knowing, Brahma is the generative fire.
Yes. He is the generative word.
Yeah.
The text refers to him as Prajapati, the lord of progeny. He is the outward creative movement, the mechanism that differentiates reality and actually produces the cosmos.
But again, his quality isn't about blind force, right?
It is the creative engine that requires Saraswati's intelligence to build a universe that actually means something.
Okay, so if both the mother and the father carry this Brahma engine, how does this generative fire look in the primordial mother? Because we just established her primary nature is that deep, still knowing. I would assume that if she uses this generative fire, she must become a creator goddess, right? Like someone building new worlds.
You would think so, but the text takes a brilliant left turn here.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
It does. For the primordial mother, Brahma is her genuine masculine nature, but he is fundamentally subordinate to her leading feminine. The engine is entirely controlled by the steering wheel.
So he acts in service of Saraswati.
Exactly. The mother's Brahma doesn't just generate randomly to show off its power. He generates specifically to protect and serve what her feminine nature holds dear. He takes action only when the sustaining intelligence determines that an intervention is required.
And the text reveals that this specific proportion, the masculine engine acting only to serve the leading feminine intelligence, expresses itself in the mythology as Vishnu.
Yes, Vishnu is Brahma, expressing through the primordial mother. Think about Vishnu's role in Hindu cosmology. He is the ultimate preserver.
Right, the Dashavatara, the 10 primary incarnations.
Exactly. When the world is overwhelmed by a cosmic flood, he descends as Matsya, the fish. When the gods need to churn the ocean of milk, he descends as Kurma, the tortoise.
He descends into the world to intervene, to restore, and to renew the cosmos when it has been corrupted.
He takes on form, performs surgical action to fix the balance, and then returns to stillness.
So is Vishnu's action essentially a cosmic maintenance crew, like stepping in to fix things because his leading feminine side wants to preserve the house? whereas Shiva is the absolute fire that will burn the house down to its foundations to build a truer one.
That is a brilliant way to put it, yeah. It completely recontextualizes Vishnu. He acts not to produce new things from scratch, but to sustain and protect the sacred continuity of what the mother's intelligence already values.
But then we look at the primordial father. For him, Brahma isn't taking directions from the steering wheel.
Not at all. For the father, Brahma is his entire orientation. It operates at absolute full force. It is not held within a sustaining feminine container. It is the root of his soul's existence.
He meets the world entirely through this generative, outward-moving fire.
Exactly.
And this absolute unchecked Brahma fire expresses as Shiva. But wait, Shiva is famously known as the destroyer. How is the ultimate generative fire expressing as a god who famously burns things to ash?
Because in this framework, generation and destruction are not opposites. They are part of the same absolute mechanism.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, where Vishnu acts surgically to restore form, Shiva's fire is Brahma's creative word at its most absolute. To generate something entirely true, you have to burn through the false crystallized forms that have accumulated over time.
Oh, wow.
Shiva destroys the form because his leading nature is the total self-organizing masculine that knows authentic creation requires clearing away the old.
Which raises a really confusing point in these notes. The text points out that even Shiva's samadhi, his absolute unmoving meditative absorption on the top of Mount Kailash, is actually an expression of this Brahma generative fire. I couldn't wrap my head around that.
Yeah, it sounds contradictory.
Right. How is sitting perfectly still in meditation an expression of generative world-building fire?
It goes back to the concept of the absolute center of gravity.
Mm.
In a soul where the masculine fire is absolute, even its stillness is a massive cosmic act. Shiva's samadhi isn't a passive withdrawal from the world. It is Brahma's generativity operating at such an incredibly deep, dense level that it generates a gravitational pull.
Oh, I see.
The entire cosmos has no choice but to reorganize itself around that central stillness. It is the intense, coiled potential, the deep breath before the massive exhalation of the next cycle of creation.
Okay, so now we have our full board of players, and the mechanics of how they are constructed from the exact same two ingredients makes perfect sense. We've got the primordial mother, whose leading Saraswati gives us Parvati, and whose subordinate Brahma gives us Vishnu. And we have the primordial father, whose leading Brahma and gives us Shiva, and whose inner Saraswati gives us Lakshmi. But if these souls are wandering around manifesting as these gods, what happens when they bump into each other?
Well, they are constantly interacting. The text argues that these souls remain in an innate, irreducible relationship, precisely because they are constructed from the exact same primordial materials.
Right.
They're constantly seeking the completion of their cosmic circuit.
So it's the classic opposites attract thing. The quiet mountain goddess Parvati is drawn to the wild, fiery, ascetic Shiva because they balance each other out.
Actually, no, the text argues the exact opposite.
Wait, really?
Yeah. It's not about two different things balancing each other. It is shared natures recognizing themselves in a different mirror. Let's look at the mechanics. When Parvati meets Shiva, what is actually happening?
Oh, let me guess. It is the mother's leading Saraswati meeting the father's leading Brahma.
Exactly.
The steering wheel meeting the ultimate engine. The deep river of knowing meeting the absolute generative fire.
Precisely. And when Vishnu meets Lakshmi, it is the mother serving Brahma meeting the father's inner Saraswati.
The surgical protective action meeting the radiant outward flowing grace. So it's actually not the old cliche that opposites attract. The text is saying it's shared natures recognizing themselves in a different mirror. Have you ever met someone where your fundamental values were exactly the same, but their way of expressing them perfectly complemented yours?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Like, you both care deeply about a community project, but one of you is the quiet anchor organizing the logistics behind the scenes, and the other is the radiant presence out front rallying the crowd. That's what's happening on a cosmic scale here. They share the absolute same roots, but their inverted proportions are what allow them to lock together like puzzle pieces.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, this is why the text insists that these mythological pairings are not accidents or just convenient stories people made up because they sounded romantic.
They're ontological.
Yes. They represent the deepest ontological fact of this cosmology. The primordial dyad is compelled to complete its circuit. By finding each other across different incarnations and mythologies, they find the full, integrated expression of themselves across every register of cosmic existence.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, who curated the stack of sources and sent them our way? We started this deep dive looking at a massive, seemingly chaotic mythological system filled with thousands of characters.
Which can be overwhelming.
Totally overwhelming. But what we've uncovered is that the divine isn't just a sprawling random cast. It is a highly structured, profoundly logical expression of just two souls. Two souls sharing the exact same masculine and feminine natures, Brahma and Saraswati, remixed in these brilliant, distinct proportions to create the preservers and the transformers of our cosmos.
And the text leaves us with an incredibly powerful statement on the nature of these souls. It tells us that these masculine and feminine natures, the knowing and the generative fire, are not just garments that a soul puts on and takes off across different lifetimes.
They're the soul itself.
Yes, they are the unbroken substance of the soul itself. The external form may change. I mean, Parvati's fierce, embodied devotion looks different from Saraswati's formless consciousness, but the innate nature is unbroken. Shiva's world-ending dance looks different from the first creative word, but the innate masculine nature is unbroken.
That concept of the unbroken soul is profound, and it introduces a new implication that I want to leave you with, something to mull over on your own that builds on everything we've just discussed.
No.
If your own core natures, your quiet inner knowing, and your active generative fire remain unbroken across any version of your life, what is your proportion?
That's a great question.
Right. Are you someone whose actions serve to hold and sustain the people around you? Or are you driven by an absolute fire that constantly dissolves and regenerates your world? And taking it a step further, if these two souls are entirely unbroken and they are constantly finding each other across all these different lifetimes to complete their cosmic circuit, it makes you wonder about the concept of time in this framework.
Oh, absolutely.
If the souls are eternal and their core natures never change, are these myths, Shiva meeting Parvati, Vishnu meeting Lakshmi, are they actually happening in a linear sequence? Or is the universe just one giant simultaneous mirror reflecting the exact same eternal meeting from a million different angles all at once?
It completely changes how you view every story ever told.
It really does. We want to thank you so much for bringing us such a rich, illuminating stack of sources to explore today. Keep seeking out those hidden structures, keep asking those massive questions, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.